and we have to do something about it now. So in this battle between light and dark, it's a spiritual battle. And the fundamental principle is that in this spiritual battle, love trumps hate and greed. So as we replace fossil fuel with solar energy, the solar energy is more powerful, it's abundant, it's free forever, less costly, non-polluting, and we can get more jobs, cleaner jobs, and at the same time, the CO2 waste, the excess CO2 has to be lowered, it has to be removed. And the first thing is we have to stop putting it in. So the way we'll do that, this is the solution. We'll make the polluters pay by carbon fee and dividend, CFD. And the second thing is we'll scrub the excess CO2 from the air, and that'll be done by carbon dioxide reduction, CDR. This is kind of a new thing now that's happening, is the movement to carbon dioxide reduction as being a necessary part of the solution. So, the fundamental principle is that death dies, death will go away, and life lives, life will win in the end. The energy wars that are ongoing now, I'll tell you more about this story on the 8th of October at 2 o'clock, because it's an amazing story of the Koch brothers, who are actually blocking sunlight from reaching the solar cells in Florida. How do they do that? Well, I'll tell you that story on the 8th, but what they're actually doing is people in Florida are being prevented by law from plugging their solar cells into the grid. And the way they did it was by bribing the politicians of Florida to enact that law. So these Koch brothers are evil for blocking others from using solar energy. And they're greedy for bribing politicians to promote their own profits from their dirty fossil fuels. So greed, in the end, is self-destructive. But I scream, where will we live if we consume our planet? Well, actually consume the biosphere of the planet, make it unlivable. So, the denier stands up at the meeting. He says, well, what if it's all a big hoax and we end up creating a better world for nothing? So, energy independence, sustainability, green jobs, livable cities, renewable, clean water, etc. Why not? The sun, it's the source of our energy, our life, our light, and even the air we breathe. So, as Thomas Edison, the sort of grandfather of most of our technology, has said, I'd put my money on the sun and solar energy. Solar energy, especially photovoltaic cells, it's a win-win. It's free. And in fact, although it shines in the daytime, we can store that excess energy in the day to use in the evening time. How much energy would it take to run America? It turns out that there's enough energy falling on this 100 by 100 square mile place in the desert to run the whole country. And not just that. If you covered that area with solar cells, of course it would run the country. And if we had twice that much energy, we could even do all the desalination to get the fresh water, as well as remove CO2 from the atmosphere down to the livable level. So there's abundant energy, plenty of energy, all we need. And the problem is, we just haven't got it built yet. So this is a huge project. I'm getting the signal. So I'm going to really railroad it now. But I'm getting excited. So everybody wake up. So we're going to do this project, and it's going to be not in the desert, but mostly on people's roofs. Okay, the good news is that this year, in December, we're at price parity between the solar energy, that's, PV, and clean renewable energy. So this is going to make it economically doable. The transition will happen, so the future is now. Going to divest from the fossil fuels of coal, oil, and gas and invest in the renewables, solar and wind. And there's a new industry which is going to give us hope. And that is, it's called CO2 reduction or carbon dioxide reduction. It's by direct air capture. A company up in Silicon Valley called Global Thermostat has built a pilot plant which can remove 700 tons per year of CO2 from the atmosphere and store it. Put it in the ground if you want. They build another plant, 100,000 tons per year of CO2, which actually, they are running this plant and they're selling the CO2 to make dry ice, etc. It's a very valuable resource. So this is a new industry and it's a break-even because they can sell the carbon dioxide at a profit. So we at Citizens Climate Lobby know the solution, and that is that you put a fee on carbon in 10 years up to $100 per ton of CO2. And that means that it's not a tax because 100% of net proceeds goes to the US household as a dividend. It's called carbon fee and dividend. And what happens then, the fossil fuel energy becomes more expensive. So people will buy less of it and instead get the clean renewable energy, which is cheaper. And what this does, it allows the market to work. The market is going to make this transition happen. What I have seen is that unless you use the market, it just doesn't happen. You can't do it from goodwill or anything. It has to be something like this. And in fact, because carbon fuel becomes more expensive this year, solar less, this makes the transition doable. So let's look at the effects of global warming. Glaciers are collapsing. This is a committed effect. And in fact, the ice sheet, the West Antarctic ice sheet in Antarctica is committed now to melting, which will raise the sea level 10 feet in time. And then the people, like in Bangladesh and in Boston, will be flooded out. And we could reach the point of no return because we'd have runaway global warming and reach that invisible tipping point. It'll be invisible when we pass it. 10 and 15 years, and we might have this vicious cycle of runaway greenhouse that would be locked in, spiraling out of control because businesses